Hello, my name is Jungsang Kim. I'm a professor of electrical and computer engineering and physics at Duke University. I'm also a co-founder of a quantum computing company called AIandQuantum. Today, I would like to discuss quantum computing. You ready to get started?
Yes, let's
All
do
right.
it.
That's great. All right, so before we get started, I'd like to start with a teaser question. You know, we see these 4 pictures on the screen. So the question to you is, what will be common to all of these 4 technologies that we use in and out every day?
I think they're all things that we either have at home or have used before. Like, for example, these days, laser treatments are quite common at like dermatology clinics too.
Oh, that's great. All right.
Maybe they are expensive.
They're expensive.
I think
They're
they're
getting cheaper, right?
they're kind of like the pinnacle of high tech.
Pinnacle of high tech. All right.
Well, I know that they've transformed all our lives, but if you ask me to explain how they work, I have no idea. I could not do that at all. Yeah.
All right.
Don't they all have something to do with light? Like laser, obviously, and then like GPS, it uses satellite signals. So I guess.
All right. Well, I think this all makes sense, right? Because we use it all the time. But I think, Megan, you're onto something. Let me give you an answer from a very scientist point of view and technologist point of view. Deep in his heart, all of these things were not available 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. They are all enabled by new knowledge of our understanding of how the world works, called quantum mechanics. Okay? So in semiconductors, there are electrons that carry electricity and performs the signal. The way they behave inside the semiconductor material, you cannot explain that without the use of quantum mechanics. In the cell phones, we access information, meaning we connect to servers that are miles and miles away, even some in a different continent. And the way we transport that information back and forth from your cell phone to the server is done through optical communications, and we use pulses of light to transform that information. That cannot be explained without quantum physics. In GPS, the satellite, as Megan mentioned, keeps track of absolute time and position, and that uses quantum mechanics to do it. And of course, laser puts a very intense light in very tight spots, and that cannot again, be explained without quantum mechanics. Quantum physics is something that we came to understand about 100 years ago. And actually today, this year, is the centennial of quantum mechanics considered. So the UN has declared it as the International Year of Quantum. So it's 100 years old. In the last century, we used a lot of quantum mechanics to build a lot of technologies. But we call that the first generation quantum technology. Now, it turns out that quantum computing is what we call the second generation of quantum computing, because this actually involves a lot of things that are counterintuitive. Okay, so we're going to try to get into that topic a little bit. But before we dive in, I would love to kind of get your sense, what do you think about quantum mechanics? Let's ask this question. Quantum computing is blah. We start with you, Aaron?
I don't know. Even after all that studying, it still seems like sci-fi to me, something from a sci-fi movie. I mean, honestly, I've never seen a supercomputer in real life, but even after trying to study this, I'm still thinking, does this actually exist?
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
I define it as like unicorn. Something half mythical feeling to many people doesn't feel real yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with you. For me, it's like a puzzle that's really hard to solve. I mean, it seems like there's a logic behind it, but because it's so different to regular computers that we're used to be honest, so I haven't really figured it out well in my head.
Okay.
Me, I would say it's like a cheat code because it's able to do tons of calculations at once. So it's like almost unfair. It's like it would change. I believe it would change the rules of the entire game, actually.
All right, that's great. I think it looks like all of you have different thoughts on it, and those are all valid points. And one theme I see underlying is something we really don't understand. Right? It's something mysterious, like a unicorn, and I would think of it as a door. It is a door that we can open up, and I think in my mind, we're just peeking through the door today to this different world, a different dimension, different rules by which the world, the universe works, compared to what we experience day-to-day lives. So in order to get to that, see if we can get a little bit of a peek into the door, and I'll bring you to my laboratory at Duke University. You can see what's going on in these labs.
In the past, scientists believed everything was clear and predictable. They believed time and space were continuous, and that all motion in the world could be predicted using equations. But in the extremely small world of atoms, a different set of physical laws applied. There, principles like uncertainty, beyond human intuition, reigned, along with entirely new ways of calculation. That became the starting point for quantum computers. Once the heart of the tobacco industry, the city of Durham has transformed into a hub of cutting-edge scientific research. Here lies the Duke Quantum Center, a global leader in quantum computing technology. It's also the research space of Professor Jungsang Kim, who oversees Duke's science and technology strategy and is pioneering a new paradigm in quantum computing.
I came to Duke and jumped into quantum computing about 20 years ago in 2004 with a vision that at some point, if we can make good progress in research, we should be able to build commercially viable computers out of this technology. So in the sense, always had that as a view. And definitely we started commercialization effort way before most other companies jumped into this. So in that sense, it was where we had the pioneering effort. But the downside was it wasn't easy to get things moving because there generally wasn't a lot of interest or belief that this technology could be viable.
But Professor Kim saw the feasibility and commercial potential of quantum computers earlier than anyone and began building the core technologies one by one. As a result, in 2015, before even IBM had released a commercial quantum computer, he co-founded the quantum computing company IonQ. 6 years later, IonQ has become the world's first pure-play quantum computing company to go public on the New York Stock Exchange, drawing global attention.
When we started out, most of the research efforts in quantum computing were focusing on the physics and devices. We looked very early on to think about building systems that it can eventually do a computational task. We're really looking at it as a computer rather than a physics experiment.
I think his work on micromirrors was really nice for doing phenomenal individual addressing of ions early on. And I think this continued development and leadership in terms of building very complex academic quantum computers led to collaboration, which created one of the first error-corrected logical qubits.
What does a quantum computer, still unfamiliar to most people, actually look like? Duke University currently houses 7 quantum computers.
Well, this is my research laboratory, where we have constructed with our students and researchers several prototype quantum computers using trapped ions. And here we actually collaborate with researchers who work on not only the hardware, but also software and the tools to construct a really full stack quantum computing research.
Quantum computers look completely different from traditional computers. They include a vacuum chamber to precisely trap ions, optical devices to shoot laser beams, control systems that serve as the computer's brain, and a web of cables, all working together in perfect coordination.
In human history, there are several different types of computers. And quantum computers are just one of them, but utilizing the quantum phenomena, especially the superposition and the entanglement. With these two, we can actually solve the quantum nature of the chemistry or pharmacy better, and also solve the optimization problems more easily.
The biggest difference between quantum and classical computers lies in how they compute. Traditional computers use binary, processing all commands as combinations of zeros and ones. Quantum computers, on the other hand, use qubits, which can be both 0 and 1 at the same time. Why does that matter? Imagine navigating a complex maze. A classical computer must try every path, one by one. But a quantum computer can explore all paths at once and find the right one much faster. This gives quantum computers the power to solve problems in seconds that would take billions of years for classical computers. If applied to real-time clinical data, drug discovery, industrial optimization, or climate response, we could be entering a whole new dimension of possibility. The quantum computer developed by Professor Jungsang Kim's team isn't just about having more qubits or faster processing speed. While companies like IBM and Google focus on superconducting chips similar to semiconductors, the Duke team takes a completely different approach, the ion trap. This method levitates individual atoms and manipulates them with lasers, offering high precision, strong stability, and the ability to perform a wide range of quantum operations.
저희 시스템에서는 저온 진공 챔버를 사용함으로써 포획된 이온의 안정도를 획기적으로 늘리는 것에 초점을 두고 있고, 그리고 이제 사용되는 모든 광학 시스템을 소형화 그리고 모듈화함으로써 광학 시스템의 안정성을 높이는 데도 크게 초점을 맞추고 있습니다.
Moreover, the ion trap method has a key advantage. It can operate stably not only in low temperatures, but also at room temperature, unlike superconducting systems that require ultra-cold environments.
In general, in order to do very large computations, you need a very large number of qubits. But that doesn't necessarily mean that if you have a lot of qubits, you can do a lot of deep computations. How good the operations you do are, how well the qubits are connected with each other in ways that you can implement the actual computational algorithm onto the system. So we pay a lot of attention not only to the numbers of qubits, but the quality of the qubits we have and the way that we can architect and control them.
The emergence of a room temperature quantum computer, once thought impossible by many. Professor Kim often tells his students when a new door opens, what matters most is who takes the first step, because that single step can be the beginning of changing the game.
We're trying to understand things that people did not understand before, or create new devices or technologies or phenomena that were not able to create before. And of course, when we try to do these, develop things in the unknown, it is a lot of effort, and most of the times it doesn't work. But a creative researcher and the research training that I've gotten was to learn how to do that.
Looking back, his career has been a continuous pursuit of firsts and breakthroughs. Graduating at the top of his class in physics at Seoul National University and receiving the Presidential Award, he went on to earn a PhD in physics at Stanford University. At the time, he developed the world's first single-photon turnstile device, which was featured in the prestigious journal Nature, and laid the foundation for quantum computer development. His time at Bell Labs, where he studied quantum, semiconductor, and communication technologies, also taught him how research dreams can translate into real-world technology. He says that experience at the intersection of science and technology became a key turning point in founding a quantum computing company. Just as past challenges shaped the present, he firmly believes that small advances in this lab will soon lead to the next revolution, quantum computing.
Whether quantum computing in the current trajectory, we'll get to that or not, I think it's an open question. There's a lot more innovation to be had. But we also have to think about other new wave of technology we can introduce to make the quantum computing a lot cheaper and much more scalable. And maybe that's some research effort we have to start today. All right, so you've seen a peek at what's going on in my laboratory with my students and postdocs and researchers, but I'm pretty sure it still feels a little distant and mysterious. Megan?
Professor, when do you think then quantum computers will make their way to our daily life?
That's a fantastic question. So I think it's exactly what you mean by computer in the daily lives can actually mean a lot. And classical computers, the traditional computers, took about 30 or 40 years for that to pan out. Okay, so it's very hard to say, okay, this is the point where quantum computers are in everybody's lives. I'm quite confident in the next few years, we will actually see applications of quantum computers affecting some part of our lives in a relatively distant way. But it will take some time for everybody to be able to carry that. Now, the difference between some of these big computers of the past and today's quantum computers is we have the infrastructure called internet to actually access computers. Just like when we do a Google search or a query to AI, that calculation doesn't happen on your phone. It actually sends that question to a server or data center, and then it will do the work, and it will just send you the answer. So that type of connection will allow us to access quantum computers more readily, even if everybody doesn't have one at their homes.
Actually, there's something I'm really curious about.
Absolutely.
So I heard somewhere that if quantum computers, if they reach a certain level, they'll be able to hack Bitcoin. Now, is that true?
Yeah, I think that is quite true. I get this question a lot. But my answer to that, you're actually missing the point in the sense that we actually have multiple trillions of dollars of online transactions that go on every single day in this world. Think about you using your cell phone, you using your online banking, or buying something from online stores. You send your credit card information around that every single day. Now, it turns out that quantum computers can crack that crypto system. Okay? So if somebody managed to crack these crypto systems, Bitcoin is not your problem. Our entire financial system will collapse. Okay, this will be, if not thousands, if not million times bigger problem. All right, so the answer is yes. Bitcoin is not going to be secure, but also our entire financial system. So that's pretty scary. So there is a very coordinated effort to create crypto systems that are robust against quantum attacks. It turns out that the current generation of crypto systems that we've invented and used since 1970s are subject to quantum attacks. Okay, so people now know that, and then now we can actually design new crypto systems. And very fortunately, it does not look like people can build quantum computers capable of cracking today's crypto systems anytime soon. So we have a little bit of time to invent new protection technologies that migrate our financial system, including Bitcoin, to the new technology, and then hopefully we'll be safe. So this is always like a competition between a sphere and a shield. You build new crypto system to defend your information, and somebody comes with new technology to attack it, and then you create new shield and so on and so forth.
I remember when OpenAI first came out, they said they did the IQ test, and it scored around like 157. This is quite interesting, but I guess with the quantum computers, we won't be able to measure their intelligence, right?
I think that's a very convoluted question. So let me break it down a little bit more. So when computers first came out, it was doing very simple things. It was actually adding and multiplying numbers. It could do that much, much, much better than humans can. Okay, so in that sense, it actually superseded human capabilities. But at the same time, we started to realize, okay, adding numbers is one skill set. Let's say the machines do that very well, but there are other things that we know how to do better that machines can't do. And people became very comfortable with that. And we allow students to use calculators in their classrooms because learning how to add numbers, that technique itself is not a big differentiator over time. But I think the real interesting about AI is actually you can start to mimic things that is fairly complicated functions that we think only humans were able to do. And then now we can actually start to measure IQ. And I think AI 5 years was pretty down 5 years ago, but today it's very competitive with some of the smartest people. And I have no doubt that 5 years from now, AI will have an IQ that is like way above even the smartest person you can find on this planet. Having said that, IQ was designed not to measure ability for human beings to do one specific task, like adding numbers. It's really designed to look at like the cognitive and intelligent performance of us. And I think AI has come to a point where it can start to beat that. Now, quantum computing at this stage, I don't think can do that complicated work, right? It will actually start out with doing some very specific tasks that humans or even the most powerful computers won't be able to do. But then it will actually be infused with all of these other technologies to actually enhance the capability. So it may make the AI much smarter and much more predictable and much more reliable. It's that kind of a addition that's going to add. But at the end of the day, the IQ of AI started out with ability to do simple things like adding numbers and so on. But we actually made it to a point where it can start to mimic much more complicated tasks. So I would believe that quantum computing will actually add to that over time.
What about like quantum computers? Are they always calculating everything 100% accurately?
That's a fantastic question. I think AI is actually designed to look at a lot of data. And then statistically, it's actually looking at the most likely thing to say. Okay? So when you have a lot of data to train on, that actually collects a lot of information, then it's going to tend to say things that make a lot of sense. But when the data is lacking, then it's going to make a lot of like extrapolations to try to say something. And it may not be very accurate. For example, I'm sure walking out of this room today, you're going to get a lot more familiar with quantum computing than when you walked in. But at the same time, so when somebody asks you a question based on all the conversation, you'll be able to say things about quantum computing, which will be reasonable because it's based on your understanding. But to an expert, not everything you say will be accurate. Right? It's exactly like that. Now, so what that means is our ability to say things or produce kind of very likely scenarios is really a function of how much data you have to train on that topic. And now if you study this topic for another 20 years, you'll be able to say things that are very, very, very accurate. Right? Quantum computers may help you speed up that learning process, maybe make you more efficient predictions based on smaller amount of data, but it is actually not going to be able to tell you the real truth. Because the whole idea of people learning and machines learning is a statistical process based on data input. And then you analyze that data and start to say things that you think are reasonable. And even for scientists, when they make some statements of conjecture, they're not 100% true. Right? And we do that all the time. The answer to your question is no. Quantum computer is not a magic bullet that will tell you everything about the universe. I think that ability for us to ask questions and explore will always be part of human. But it can actually give you a more powerful tool to converge faster and more effectively to more predictable answers. All right. That was fascinating. Very exciting and interesting questions, intriguing questions. People say that quantum mechanics is difficult and mysterious and so on. And that is somewhat true. And mainly because the way that these quantum systems at subatomic scale behaves, it is so different than what we experience from day to day. The fact that we don't experience it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And the way we have to understand it is the way that we teach our kids why 1 + 1 is 1. Or 2, sorry. 1 + 1 is 2. Or why the Earth is round. If they ask you why is 1 + 1? Why is the Earth round? I think the answer is, that's just the way it is. Right? There is no why. Earth is round. That's the fact. We have to accept it. Do you like superhero movies?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I love.
Of course.
Think of it as superpower.
Oh.
Let's take Superman as an example. Superman flies. When you ask, why does a Superman fly? How does a Superman fly? We don't answer that question.
Yeah, true.
We just accept the fact that Superman is capable of flying. That's the way it is. Then we say, okay, if you can have people who can fly, then you can do so many interesting things that are not imaginable before. Right? And that's what the movie is all about. It just never explains why and how, but once they can do it, what can you do with it? Quantum computing is just like that. I'm going to tell you 2 superpowers of quantum computers. And if you ask me why, I don't know. That's just the way it is. Okay? But then we're going to say, okay, once we accept the fact that these superpowers do exist, then what can we do with it? What kind of computers we can build and what kind of information processing we can do is what this lecture is going to be about. All right, ready to dive in?
Do it.
All right, let's go. The first superpower is that I can be here and I can be here at the same time. And nobody understands quantum mechanics. There are two rules in quantum physics.
So the two rules are completely different.
Our favorite physicist of the 20th century, Albert Einstein, didn't like this idea. That every 30 years, your computer gets 1 million times better.
It would make the world more unfair.
Have we reached a limit in computing? Is there even something beyond?
It's like magic to create that future, whatever it is. Let's do it right.